Hey guys, this is Rocky Days back with another video on the tutorial series on Web Audio API. And in the previous two videos, I introduced you guys to Web Audio API and its basic functionality. And I've also shown how oscillators and filters work. Though we have covered up quite simple things, there's a lot more to go, and I'll be showing you guys much more stuff. And particularly in this video, we'll be working with something on the web side. So if you're not interested in it, you can skip ahead and go ahead, but if you're interested, then just stay tuned, because we'll be doing something like this. So I'll start playing it and you can watch it for yourself. So here I have a simple interface. So let's say I start it. Now it's playing something, and I can stop it just by clicking the button, and I can start again and play it back. I mean I can stop it back and play it again. So also I can shift whatever waveform that I would like to shift to, so that I can just understand which sounds in what way and all that. So for example, let's say I have a triangular form and I start, and I can even change the frequency. So I hope you can hear that, guys. If you can't hear, then don't worry, you'll be coding this in the next few minutes and you can check it out yourself. Alright, that was quite high. Anyways, so going forward, so you'll be working with these things. This is quite simple. You don't have to worry about learning new things, and you don't have to worry about figuring things out, because I'll make everything simple. So let's see how it works. So one final time, I'll just give a demo. So let's say I started. Alright, okay, this seems to be fine. Alright, so I hope you've had fun with that music. So anyways, let's get started. So this is the basic HTML code that I have here, and there's a JavaScript code here as well. So what I did was I moved my JavaScript into a new file called myscript.js, in which I've written all this down. So there's not much code, as you can see. It's just 48 lines of code. Of course, the HTML code is 29 lines, and it's simple if you're really quite good with the front end, and I hope most of you are. I really think you guys are, because who doesn't know HTML these days? Anyways, if at all you don't know it, do not worry about that. You can just follow along in this tutorial. So what I'll be doing is that I'll recreate all this file in the new file, and I'll call it something else. Let's say let me call it my script, or else second script.js. Alright, so over here in the down below, I have given the source as myscript.js. So what you can do is you can just create any script of your choice. I mean, you can give it a name of your choice, but of course you'll have to code the way I'm coding, so that you guys can almost recreate the same effects that I've created. You can create the same interface. So let's get started. So over here, what I've done is that you can ignore these parts. In the body, of course, I have hello, this is DeRaze, and after that there's something called a button, which will activate the function called play whenever I click on it. So this is quite simple to code. If you're into HTML, it's quite easy. It's just a breeze. But if you're not, then just write these down. So what you guys need to do is create a button, and then give it a property called I'm not sure if it is called a property, but you can call it property. Alright, so give it a property called onClick, and give it a value of equal to play, and give it parentheses so that it knows that it's a function. So you can call the button anything of your choice, and I've given it start/stop. So over here, as you can see, I have a button. Anyways, going back, after that I've given inputs over here, which are of type radio. So radio buttons help me to choose among a list of values. but they ensure that they are not checkboxes. Checkboxes, you can select multiple items, but with radio button you get only one. Of course, these things can be manipulated again, but I'm working with the basics of JavaScript so that even those who are not into JavaScript much can understand this and just get started. So anyway, since I've spoken about it, let me tell you that all the JavaScript used over here is not high-end, and most of it is like I'm not even sure if you can use two functions like this, but of course this is quite easy for you to understand, so that is the reason I'm just doing this. So anyways, going forward, so what we have here is an input element. So input element works like this. So I'm giving a function again. When I'm changing it, I'm calling another function and all these things. I don't think you need to grab all this in the start itself, but of course it just it pays to just know beforehand what you have. So anyways, what I want you guys to do is do this. Just continue. I'll just keep typing over here. You can do the same. So what you do is just create an input button and give it the type radio, and give it the name waveform. Make sure that the name of all the radio buttons is the same, because it will then understand that you're basically dancing around in the same value rather than creating multiple radio buttons for different values. So over here you can see that everything is a waveform, so there are 4 waveforms. So after that you can say sine for sine wave, but you gotta give the value also. So the value will be sine with a small s. Make sure that it's not the capital S. So similarly you can copy these down, and what you can do is just say square for square, oops sorry, and then you can say sawtooth, and the last one will be triangle. Alright, and also do the same changes over here, and so on. So it's quite simple. So what you get is as you can see over here, you have 4 more options, and all of them are in the same line because I have not given them block level. I've not pushed them inside a div or given a break. So you can do these minor things. If you're well versed with HTML, you can create however you want. So that's how you create it. And finally what I did was I just inserted another property called onChange, and then I gave it a function. So all you gotta do is just say onChange is equal to change type, and that's your function, and give this function to each of the element, so that gets activated whenever you change the value of this selection, which is the radio button. Let me refresh it. Okay. Alright, so whenever you change it, the function gets called, and nothing's happening right now because that's how it's going to work. When it's working, and let's say when it's working, as in when the sound is on, only then these things get called. And even when the sound is off, these things get called, but you don't see the change because that's how the functions are working. So I'll explain the whole logic. Before that, I really want you guys to make sure that you have these elements on your screen on your browser, and that you have opened up browser or an editor, and you have started editing all these things, creating all these things. Alright, so after that, finally we have something called a slider over here, and it's quite simple to build. All you gotta do is say this, you have an input and give it a type range, and then you can name it anything, but of course it's not required over here. I have given an ID as well. ID is required, guys, because with this ID we are going to calculate what the value of this range element is. And after that you can give a function called change frequency, and this function whatever function I've called here will be created in the script side, which I'll be talking about. But of course you can call these functions anything that you want. So over here there is change type, you can call it type change or anything of your choice. Over here there is change freq or change frequency, you can call it anything, you can name it anything. Just make sure that when you have it in your other code, I mean the JavaScript code, those functions are defined and are working pretty much fine. Alright, so that's it on the HTML side, I guess. So that's it. So if you see over here, that's it. I mean there's nothing more in the HTML side. Everything's done. All you gotta do is you gotta insert a script at the bottom, which will call all the functions, which will define all the functions. So I'll be building each one in the second script.js. So what I'll do is I'll copy this whole thing down, I'll just comment this out, and I'll call it second script.js. So the reason I'm doing this is I mean I have not done that with HTML because I didn't want to waste time creating all these elements, because most of you guys might be knowing a lot of this, a lot of HTML. And even if you did not, it's quite simple. As you have seen, it's just copying down elements and just giving them IDs and all that. You can pause the video, or if you're quite fast enough, you can just type them along as I'm showing it over here. I'm pretty sure most of you might have already done that. But anyways, the reason I'm doing that is specifically for JS part of it, is because the whole magic lies in JavaScript code here. So anyways, second script is given. So what I need to make sure is I need to define these elements. And regarding the use strict method, it's not quite required. I mean, if you're concerned about a lot of rules and all that, you can use this. But later on we'll be using use strict and all that. I mean it's like a safety measure, so that a lot of code doesn't get it doesn't give out any problems. So anyways, right now I'm just commenting it out. You can have it if you want. So let's get started. So I hope you have the HTML again. So if you do not, just pause it over here and create this file. So I have yes, it is fitting in the whole screen, I suppose. Alright, so I hope that is done. So after that, let's get started with the JavaScript code. So the first thing I want you to understand is that to make waveform, I mean to make us oscillator start working, all you need to do is basically to make the button play a sound like this, what you need to do is you need to create an oscillator. You have to connect it to the AudioContext destination, and then you have to start it. So most of this was covered in the previous tutorial, where I spoke about how you can change the frequency of an oscillator, how you can get its type and all that. So what I did was I went ahead and I created a property, an object called osprop, or let's call it oscillator property. So what this property will have is that it will basically have the type, the frequency, and the playing. So the playing status comes later on. So for now, let's just put type. So I just want to start with a sine wave. You can start with anything. You can start with sawtooth or anything of your choice. And then frequency will be another property. So this is a basic JavaScript object. If you're not well versed with it, I want you guys to just pause the video and just have a quick look. It's quite simple. If you're into Java or JavaScript already, you might be knowing it. So it's not a big thing. If you're into oops of any sort, it won't matter basically listening to all this. So anyways, frequency is a value. It's an integer, so you can choose any frequency of your choice. You can start from 100 itself. You can give 2 itself. It's totally up to you. I'll just give 500 for now, and another property will come later on, but I won't write it down yet. So basically, what this os property is holding is that it's an object, and it is holding the values over here. So it's basically holding properties of the oscillator, so in a nice compact fashion. So later on, what I do is I'll create an audio context. So if you remember, everything works with an audio context, so you can call it anything. You can use CTX, and all these things are quite basic common conventions. So you can create a new audio context, and now you're done. You can use this audio context to create an oscillator, and stuff goes on forever. So what I do before that is I ensure that all these functions are available after the window is loaded. So for that, the simple function, which is window.onload, is quite useful. So inside this you can write whatever kind of functions that you want, which will start working only when the whole window has loaded properly. So the first function is quite simple. It's called a play function, and because I'm using it over here, I have to define it on the global space. So I'll just say play, and then play is the function. So I'll have to define it like this. So how I'm going to define it is I'll just say where oscillator is equal to audio context dot create oscillator. So this was done in the previous video as well, so it's quite simple. After that, I'll say that oscillator dot type will be sine, but instead of writing sine over here, what I can do is I can just say osprop dot type. Now if at all I'll change it in the future, I don't have to worry about hard coding the values again and again. So this will be taken care by the object's property itself. Similarly, what I can do is I can say oscillator dot frequency dot set value at, just let me just check, yeah, set value at time. So basically it's at the current time. You can set whatever value that you want to. So for this, I'll just say osprop dot frequency and this will work at audio context dot current time. So those of you who are not able to understand this, I'm pretty sure that you don't understand because you've not watched the previous video. So if you don't get it, I really urge you to watch it and come back, so that you will get along pretty much fine. So anyways, this is the basic stuff. So after this, what you gotta do is you gotta connect and you gotta start playing. Alright, let's do that. So let's see what will happen. So oscillator dot connect, you connect this oscillator to the audio context destination, and after this you're good to go. So you just say oscillator dot play. So that's what your play function will do. So I hope this will work. Let's check it out. Alright, it's not working. It's saying that oscillator.play is not a function. Oops, sorry, it's not oscillator.play. My mind is somewhere else. Alright, so it's working. So I hope you can hear that, but of course we can't stop it. I'll have to refresh. I just refreshed the page to stop it completely. So what I can do is I can check whether this oscillator is working or not, so that I can use the same button to start or stop. Or else what will happen is, just check this out. So I'm not sure if you caught that, but what it was doing is it was creating new oscillators, many oscillators, because there's a variable over here and then it's a local variable and all that. So what I can do is I can just remove the var here and I can just add it here. That'll make it a global variable and I can control it as I wish. So also after that, what I can do is I can maintain a status to understand whether this is working pretty much fine or not, as in whether it is working, or I mean whether it is on or whether it is off. I get to monitor that. So what I'll do is I'll just say the playing. So I can call it anything, but I chose to name it playing, so you can call it anything of your choice. So when it is instantiated first, it will come with a value of false. So this means that it is not playing, it's currently switched off. So what I can do is I can just say if I can check for the playing. So what I'll basically say is if osprop.playing. So basically if this is true, then do something, and if it is false, then do this. So basically the first code will be this, because when you start it is false. So basically this is what will happen when it is started for the first time. And what you would want to do is you would want to say oscillator does stop once it's starting to play. But what you need to do is you also need to change the oscillator.playing status to true once it is started. So what you do is basically give it a true value when I start the play, and once it is it's finished, what I do is I'll just say false. I really hope that you got this code. It's quite simple. What it is doing is the playing status, basically the playing is changing to false when you click this button when it is playing, and when it's not playing, it'll start the music, or I'll say it'll start the sound, and then the true property, I mean the playing property will have the value of true. So let's see if this works. Pretty much fine. Alright, it's working fine. So you can start and stop it whenever you want to. So that's it. So that is your play function, which I've covered here. And then you just have two more functions which are quite simple. So once you use that, you can completely play around with your interface. So the next one is nothing but it's called change freq or change frequency. You can name it whatever you want. So what it'll do is basically it'll get the value of your frequency slider, and then it'll multiply by 50. The 50 is it's quite a random number. I just chose it to magnify the frequency. So basically the values range from 0 to 100 on the range on this element which you see over here. This basically the range. Alright, it's basically posting an error because it is saying that change freq is not defined, because I've shifted the I mean I've created a new script. Alright, that won't be a problem because I will create everything over here. So yeah, anyways, so as I was saying, so this frequency range generally has 0 to 100, but I'm magnifying it by 50 so that I can view a lot of changes. I can hear quite a lot of sounds. I mean the frequencies are magnified. So what I do is I'll whenever I'm changing it, what I'll do is I'll just say before that I need to give it over here. I mean because I'm defining it, I need to define it over here, and once I've done that I can start playing with it. So what I'll do is I'll say osprop.frequency is basically over here we have a frequency slider. So what I'll do is I'll just say whichever element has the ID frequency slider, take that element and take its value, and once you take its value, multiply it by 50. So it's quite simple. So what you do is you just say document dot get element by ID, and then you give the ID which is frequency slider, and then take its value basically, because it will be returning a lot of things and you just need its value, and multiply it probably by 30, which is fine. Or you can select any value, so you can play around with it a lot. So the play over here is something else. I'll talk about it later on. And you also have another function, the last function, which is called change type, which will change your type basically. So it will change the type of the waveform that you're working with. So osprop has 3 properties now, and the type is the first property. So you can change it to the value whichever is being selected over here, like for example input, and the name is waveform, so you can use this name and its value will be inputted as the new property. So how do you get that is you just use this function, which is document.query selector, and these are quite simple JavaScript functions. I don't use them. I generally use AngularJS or any other framework to work around with this. In my opinion, jQuery is the best. I mean, jQuery is quite simple and you can use it at great lengths, but over here I just wanted to show the basic stuff, so you can go ahead and use whatever you would like, if at all you're well versed with a lot of frameworks. So anyways, what I do is document.query selector, and then I say input type. Alright, sorry, input name is equal to we have the name as waveform, and that's about it. Alright, you also need to make sure that it's a checked value that you're taking, not each and every value. Alright, I've forgot about that. So the value is now whatever you are selecting over here. So if I select sawtooth, you get sawtooth, and stuff goes on. Alright, also I need to make sure that change type is global variable. It's defined, so I need to input it over here. So make sure that all this is there. So let me just do this. Alright, so we are good to go, I suppose. Alright, so let me start it. Alright, it's working pretty much fine. Alright, this is also working fine. Alright, if you see, everything is working pretty much fine. And lastly, what I did over here in this piece of code was I gave play twice, because you know, when I'm basically changing something, I wanted the effect to be immediately applied, as in I wanted to see if it is working fine, or I just wanted to hear right away. So for example, this is working and I'm changing it, there's no effect happening over here. So what I thought was, basically, let me just call this function twice, so that, you know, it'll stop and it'll again start, and when it starts, it'll start with the new properties, new values. So that's the reason I just said play twice. So all you gotta do is just call it twice. Oops. And now you're good to go. You have the complete code in your hands. So alright guys, that's about it for this video. So I just wanted to show how you can play around with your HTML basic stuff. Basically, you've seen that I've not even used any CSS over here, so you can go around work a lot with all these kinds of things. You can just, you know, work with JavaScript to great lengths. Basically, this was just basic stuff. So I just wanted to show how oscillator properties can be manipulated and played around with, and I really want you guys to work this out on your own browser so that you can learn it, because, you know, hands-on learning is the best way to learn. So yeah, that's about it, and thanks a lot for watching this video. I know it's quite long, and if you've liked it, give it a thumbs up, and also share it with your friends, and give it a nice comment if you liked it, and if you didn't, you can tell me whatever you would want me to change in the way I'm teaching. So anyways guys, thanks a lot for watching. Keep watching, stay tuned, and I'll be back with another video, and bye bye.